Story 1. Streaming services are repackaging their plans, making what was once a good price without ads now more expensive with ads, and charging an additional cost for the ad-free version. I'll just cancel my subscription, Netflix. Story 2. Any product without a price tag on it does not fit my budget, regardless of whether it is a candy bar. Story 3. Any celebrity promoting online gambling contributes to addiction and can ruin lives. It raises the question of how much money they have lost to gambling. Story 4. A Ugandan orphanage I used to support turns out to be falsely advertised by the Ohio Rotary Clubs. It is, in fact, a community center run by the sister of the former Rotary president. The president used visits there to carry on an extramarital affair for several years. There is more to the story, all corrupt, but the dishonesty and behavior have made me much more cautious about who I trust with donation money. Story 5. Any store that refuses to complete my purchase unless I provide a phone number or an email address is unacceptable. I know this requirement can be bypassed, so there is no need to pretend otherwise. You will not receive my information, especially when I am paying in cash. Story 6. Locks of Love. I used to donate my hair to them regularly, thinking they were a non-profit organization. However, I have since found them to be unsatisfactory. I now support wigs for kids. Story 7. I am done with any brand that tries to guilt-trip me into supporting them because they claim to be for a good cause, only to find out they are using it as a marketing strategy. If you are genuinely supporting something important, do not put a limited edition sticker on it and raise the price by 30%. That is not philanthropy. It is exploitation. Sell me the product at a fair price and actually donate to the cause you claim to care about. Do not make me feel like I am helping when I am just lining your pockets. Story 8. Nestle and any movie featuring actors who openly belong to Scientology. This is not new, and I believe it is quite self-explanatory. Story 9. Giving money to an addict, even if they are very close to me, is something I avoid. I have witnessed it go wrong too many times. I will buy them anything they need and will feed them as much as they would like, but I will never give them cash. Story 10. I always loved going to Subway until they removed the oven-roasted chicken subs and replaced them with rotisserie chicken. Subway will never receive my support until they bring back oven-roasted chicken subs. Story 11. There was a podcast that I enjoyed and listened to regularly. As time went on, the host expressed some unusual opinions, and I began to form an image of him in my mind. When I finally saw a picture of him, he looked exactly as I had imagined. At that point, I was completely done with the podcast. I also refused to go to any restaurant that provides poor service. Out of the 8 restaurants in town, I will not visit 2 of them for any reason. Story 12. I have mostly stopped going out to eat or ordering food. The quality has taken a significant decline. Very few places offer portions that represent their prices. It's a gamble whether I'll even enjoy the meal. I read the local health inspections, and that alone churns my stomach. Out of the hundreds of restaurants in my sprawling area, which is within a 45-minute drive, I'll eat at maybe 6. It's just such a waste. However, I have started stocking up on classic cookbooks from around the world and jump-started my garden this year with various unique items. I even set up a growing station so I can have fresh, free herbs year-round. As for Amazon and Target, I have no interest in them. A new Costco is being built in town as I write this, and I am excited. Story 13. The Masons. I was an active member for 15 years and had conflicts with some members of my lodge who seemed to be entrenched in Masonry. Long story short, I'm out, and people I considered friends for 15 years now act like they don't see or recognize me when I encounter them at the grocery store. It's not the fraternity that it pretends to be. It's made up of local individuals and disgruntled enthusiasts. Story 14. Walmart has consistently treated its employees poorly, leading to a negative experience in their stores. Customers often encounter loud environments, employees pursuing thieves, limited self-checkout options, and products that are either out of stock or not stocked correctly. Story 15. Tipping people who exert the same amount of energy I do in the same transaction, such as handing me a cup of coffee. Story 16. I used to vote for the Green Party in Ireland when they were a fringe group. They eventually entered government, and the first thing they did was grant permission for an incinerator to be built in one of the most scenic areas of Dublin. Following that, they cut public services and reduced pay by 20%. They did not undertake any environmentally friendly initiatives during their 4 years in power and have not been successful since. That occurred about 20 years ago. Story 17. The pizza place down the street from me has new owners who use cheaper ingredients that don't taste as good as the previous ones. Story 18. Blogger website that posts all about celebrities. Cooking shows is another matter. Story 19. Places that have a tipping option before they give me the food make me feel like I must tip in front of them. I worry that if I don't tip, they might give me less food compared to if I do tip. Story 20. Tipping at a fast food restaurant. Once, a cashier at Taco Bell told me she never received anything in tips, and that was enough for me to never do it again. Tipping your server or delivery driver is essential, in my opinion. Tipping the cashier at Taco Bell or KFC is not necessary and may, in fact, be a total scam. Story 21. Anytime a store asks me to round up to donate to a charity, I decline. I am not contributing to your tax break. This probably saves me about $50 per year. Story 22. Starbucks. I was never a big fan, even when I worked there for years. I have been hearing for a while about how much has changed within the company's culture from news and current employees. That's fine. They got rid of my favorite items a long time ago. Story 23. Nestle. However, I did not support Nestle, and I was unaware of the many products to avoid. There are too many to keep track of, but I do make an effort to stay informed. Story 24. I use my own money to buy supplies, teaching materials, snacks, and prizes for my public school classroom. If the school allocates funds for my class, that would be great. If parents and the community donate to the class, that would be wonderful. However, I need my paycheck in time for bills, groceries, family, health issues, and personal needs. It's becoming increasingly difficult to manage. Story 25. I don't know if this counts as an answer, but social media. I've been off Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter for a while now, and I don't miss it. When someone calls me lame, I shrug it off, thinking how at least I'm not wasting hours every day learning about others' whereabouts and feeling the need to share things of my own just to fit in or be cool. Story 26. I donated several times to politicians during the election, and now my phone receives 10 to 15 texts a day from politicians asking for money. Story 27. I'm done supporting companies that test on animals. Cruelty-free options are available, and animals don't deserve to suffer for our vanity. Story 28. A business whose owner gives off a negative vibe is often subjective. However, I have learned to trust my judgment in these matters. Story 29. I took my son to Six Flags Discovery Kingdom for his birthday, but every ride was closed. They refused to give me a refund or address the issue in any way. Additionally, they have a troubling history of mistreating whales and dolphins. I do not recommend this place. Story 30. Any business that supports autism speaks. Personally, I cannot support people who believe I need to be cured or hidden away. Additionally, I do not agree with the involvement of CEOs in thrift stores. Story 31. Any crowdfunding campaigns always aim to help people in need. However, that's no longer the case. A girl raised $75,000 for breast cancer treatment in Mexico through a crowdfunding platform but never went. She used the money for her wedding and honeymoon instead. Story 32. Politicians are aligned with corporations and do not prioritize our interests. Story 33. Shine and Temu, along with all those fast fashion apps, have led to a significant amount of regret for me. When I started working at 14, I was thrilled to have my own money. I ordered far too many clothes simply because they were cheap. Now, I regret that decision. Beyond the concerns regarding child labor, it is incredibly wasteful because half of the clothes became unappealing after just 2 wears. I can't believe I wasted so much money. Story 34. Tipping when I go through a drive-thru. Tipping when you hand me something at the display window. Story 35. I will never again support any form of ideological extremism. For many years, I was a staunch right-wing supporter. Not to the point of shouting harsh slogans at people with different views. I never allowed myself to sink that low. I still lean towards strong moral principles, and I am still a religious man and a patriot, but I have detached from the far-right bubble. What changed me was my teenage daughter, who is my whole world and who turned out to be a lesbian. That experience taught me humility and understanding. I support my daughter with all my heart in every part of her life, and the trust she showed me. Coming out to me before her mother, which I see as a huge honor, was cleansing and eye-opening for me. What changed in me? In my country, same-sex marriage isn't legal, and if that doesn't change by the time my daughter is an adult and she finds a girl she wants to share her life with, I will be the one driving them to the nearest country where they can get married, and I will proudly stand as a witness at their wedding, if they will have me. Sending love to everyone, and just a little reminder, be careful with holding on too tightly to any beliefs. Life can surprise you when you least expect it. Story 36. Factory farming causes horrific suffering to animals, and I refuse to support it. Story 37. Tipping. For the last 12 years, I have refrained from any service that requires tipping, except for one emergency taxi ride. I learned how to cook and never cut my hair. Pay a living wage. Story 38. Chili's restaurant. I used to work at Best Buy, and an employee from there would come in and interfere with people's sales, causing disruptions. I called to complain about his harassment, but they refused to take any action. A few years later, I went to a different location and waited 45 minutes just for my drink. I will never eat there again. Story 39. Ugh, I was probably blindly following trends. I used to feel like I had to enjoy or do whatever was popular, but honestly, it's just tiring. It's much better to be myself. Story 40. Target used to be my go-to for everything, but then they caved to the administration's pressure regarding diversity and inclusion. They stand for nothing and have lost my business. Story 41. McDonald's lost my order once, and I never received my refund. I will not return or support them again. Story 42. Used to donate to a cancer charity to find a cure. The organizers admitted that the money raised will go towards lobbying for additional funding. Story 43. Any appliance that requires an application that asks me to log in and provide my personal information is unacceptable. I recently moved to a new apartment, and while the washing machine has impressive features, the application requested my birthday, date of purchase, full name, email, and phone number. The app did not allow me to leave any of those fields empty. I have been patient with smart appliances, but this was the last straw. Story 44. The majority of subscription-based services can be concerning. I want to own what I am investing in. I cringe at how much I have spent on Netflix and Hulu over the years when I could have simply bought the DVDs. Story 45. Agreeing to go out for lunch or dinner when I'm not actually hungry can be challenging. My eating habits are delicate enough as they are, and I prefer not to disrupt them due to social obligations. Story 46. Donating to a charity at checkout allows you to contribute your spare change or any amount to the chosen charity. The company then donates that amount to the charity using your contribution, which they can write off as a charitable donation, providing them with a tax advantage. Story 47. Rounding up to donate to charity at stores. I'm not selfish. I would donate to charities if I had disposable income. However, the stores are using it as a tax write-off. I believe they should pay their taxes. Story 48. Tipping culture in general has evolved significantly. I used to support tipping, but now I see that the primary reason tipping is encouraged is so business owners can justify paying their employees less. Over time, this practice has become increasingly problematic. Now, we even have self-service machines asking for tips. Nobody directly assisted me, so unless the tip goes directly to the trucker who delivered the product to the store, I am not inclined to give a tip. In my opinion, we should eliminate tipping altogether. I have returned to viewing tips as a bonus for exemplary service, rather than an expected part of the transaction. If you do a good job, I am more than happy to provide a 20% tip or more. Story 49. Any religious podcast that promotes political parties or candidates is not for me. I am a Christian, and I enjoy listening to discussions about ideas and teachings of Christianity. However, as soon as they start repeating political talking points as if they are biblical principles, I lose interest. This applies to both the left and the right. Overly political individuals often have a distorted view of Christ's teachings. Story 50. I'm sad to say I really loved the 1000 Hours Outside movement and had the app, but then she started posting about Robert F. Kennedy and anti-vaccine rhetoric, and I was out. Story 51. Going out to eat is something my wife and I love to do on Friday or Saturday nights. Unfortunately, many restaurants are currently understaffed, close early, and the quality of food has declined significantly. There are still a few nicer restaurants we visit, but their prices are unreasonable for average food. Story 52. I have been a wrestling fan since I was 6 years old, but I believe that, on balance, world wrestling entertainment has been an overall net negative for professional wrestling as a whole. Additionally, they have aligned themselves with Donald Trump, signed a deal with Saudi Arabia to improve their image, and can be held responsible for the untimely deaths of many individuals. It has also come to light that Vince McMahon is a horrific sexual abuser, making my criticisms of the wrestling style they present seem trivial in comparison. Story 53. Any online news outlet that requires an email address or payment, even for a nominal fee, is not included. Story 54. Anytime a card reader asks me to donate to a charity at a store, it feels like just a tax break for a massive corporation. Any donations I make go directly to small organizations. Story 55. Any store that no longer accepts cash is technically violating the law, as it states on the currency that it is to satisfy all debts, both public and private. Story 56. Anything that inserts political opinions is unwelcome. I use your product to escape the constant barrage we encounter daily, and I am not interested in personal viewpoints. Story 57. Most charities, unless I have researched where the money goes, allocate less than 15% of donations to their intended purposes. The rest is spent on salaries and advertising. They are scams. Story 58. Goodwill has been increasing prices for items they receive for free and curates items for their own bidding website. Story 59. Southwest Airlines used to be one of my favorite airlines, but recently they have become like every other airline. First, they started doing assigned seating, which I was okay with. Then they announced that they would start charging for checked bags, and that was it for me. I am flying in a few weeks and found a flight with both United Airlines and Southwest for the same price. The only difference is that United Airlines has first class. I bought the first class ticket. If I am paying a premium to fly, I might as well get the premium ticket and a free check bag. Story 60. Salvation Army. Ever since I learned about their anti-LGBTQ+ stance and support for conversion camps, I have stopped supporting them. I donate money to charities that are LGBTQ+ friendly and supportive. Story 61. Whataburger removed the only burger I liked from their menu, the Mushroom Swiss. Now the entire menu is average at best, and I no longer order anything from there. Story 62. Anyone who voted for Mango Mussolini, you asked for this. Now deal with it like the rest of us. Story 63. Charities that pay their CEOs over 100,000 euros in a country where the average salary is 50,000 to 60,000 euros. Story 64. CEOs and their companies, landlords and their pseudo-feudalism. I refuse to work hard to fill everyone else's greedy pockets. Since I started working at a nonprofit organization, I realized I'd rather give my all to make the world better while being paid poorly than give my full effort for slightly better pay. Story 65. I have always been a good tipper, but I suddenly hit a wall after having that machine forced on me for poor service. I am going to try not tipping. Story 66. Panera Bread. I have a problem with them since they removed fresh eggs from the breakfast menu. I haven't been back since. Story 67. The United Way and employers' strong-arm tactics to reach enrollment numbers have led me to set my work email filter to automatically delete anything referencing the United Way, a decision I have never regretted. I contribute to charity, but I prefer to do it on my own schedule whenever I feel like it. Filling out those forms is not something I want to deal with. Story 68. Live music concerts are preferable unless it's a smaller venue where I can purchase tickets directly. I am not willing to spend $300 to sit in the nosebleed section after enduring 2 hours of traffic and paying over $40 for parking, only to discover that the artist receives a small percentage of the ticket sales. I attended concerts frequently 20 years ago. Most tickets ranged from $40 to $100, depending on the band and the venue, including large bands at well-known venues in Los Angeles. Story 69. Homelessness is a difficult issue and I feel bad about it, but I have been scammed too many times. At this point, I would rather knock on tents and provide genuine support, which I do almost every year. However, if someone asks me for money, I hesitate to help. Story 70. Family vloggers. It was justifiable when YouTube and TikTok were new because we didn't fully understand the consequences, but now we are aware of the dangers online. It is no longer justifiable to show your child's face. You are putting your child at risk and exploiting them. It's inappropriate. If you choose to do family vlogging, the least you can do is blur your children's faces. Story 71. Consider tipping at the fast food establishments you visit. Ask the staff directly if they receive any of the tips that the machine prompts for or if it only goes to the store. I have learned that many places that request tips, especially large chain fast food restaurants, do not distribute the tips to their staff. That is the only instance when I refuse to tip. Story 72. Any political cause. I no longer have faith in the goodwill of anyone seeking any form of political influence over others. Story 73. I'm finished investing my energy in situations that drain me, especially one-sided friendships. You know the type where you're always reaching out, always listening, and always showing up, but they disappear the moment you need anything. It's not about holding a grudge. I'd rather spend that same time on people who genuinely care, people who sometimes text first, who check in, who make life feel a little lighter. Story 74. Goodwill is a for-profit organization. You give them items for free, and they sell them for profit. The whole donate, goodwill, do good idea is misleading. Donate to the Salvation Army. 90% of everything they receive goes toward actually helping people. Story 75. My former university was in their medical college. Imagine this. You work tirelessly studying for various application tests from multiple universities, and only one accepts you. This brings a lot of joy, recognition, and congratulatory messages all around. However, a significant oversight during the application process is that the campus of your college is not the same as where you took the test. It's much farther away, 20 miles from your house. Fortunately, my parents can finance me directly, so no loans are needed. On top of that, they give me a car. Excited, I drive my brand new Peugeot 208, which is fully paid off. After 2 years of a 40-mile round trip every day, I agree to my parents' offer to move closer to college. We decide to buy an apartment near the college, with 4 years left to complete my studies. My grades improve, and on weekends I stay with my parents at home. 3 years go by, during which I fail a couple of semesters. In my 5th year of medical college, the prospect of earning a bachelor's degree feels imminent as internships begin. I embark on 1-month stints in various specialties, including obstetrics and gynecology, internal medicine, pediatrics, family medicine, and surgery. The first semester is inpatient, followed by rotations in the hospital doing 12-hour shifts and gradually gaining more autonomy. Finally, you graduate. Congratulations on navigating such a complex program and maintaining your vision to the end. The physical and mental toll on my body is extreme. I spend a month's worth of minimum wage on medication just to remain alive and functioning. Then the breaking point arrives, a situation that drives me over the edge. I become a patient myself, and my psychiatrist mandates a month off from college. Despite almost all their students investing years of minimum wage worth of money and health, the university decides to restrict internship placements. If they are too far away, they offer no adequate transportation. I am frustrated. I am expected to complete internships at locations that are 2 hours in each direction from where I made my life-changing decision to endure this journey. After 2 weeks of commuting, 10 days and 40 hours behind the wheel, I reach my limit. One day, having taken too many sleeping aids, I wake up disoriented and end up in the emergency room as a patient. When medical college becomes a matter of when a student dies and not if, I choose to stop supporting them. I applied to enter a mechanical engineering college at 28 and was accepted on my first try. Looking back, I wonder about the number of people I could have helped had I not been broken beyond repair in pursuit of a medical degree. Therapy sessions are tough. Story 76. As an Australian, I am concerned about any restaurant or cafe that is beginning to enforce a tipping culture. We pay a decent minimum wage, so there is no need to automatically add a 20% tip on top of the bill through a payment machine, where it will not even reach the waitress. Story 77. Service fees in online shopping and restaurants can be frustrating. It feels unfair to pay an additional fee, like $2, for actions I can perform myself. In restaurants, I can accept a charge of 10% for service for tables of 6 or more. However, if I see a service fee for every order, why can't that fee be included in the menu prices? Story 78. Heifer International has received my donations for years until they sent me a soliciting letter last December. I believed they were a non-sectarian charity. There are plenty of other charities that do not engage in proselytizing and are deserving of my support. Story 79. Sexual content in advertising is problematic. If a product requires someone half-naked to sell it, it suggests a lack of respect for consumers. Story 80. McDonald's food was unsatisfactory, but it was affordable with the app. I hadn't paid for fries since the pandemic. However, after the unfavorable experience, I deleted the app and now pay 2 to 3 times as much for lunch. I will not return to eat there again. Story 81. The Democratic Party is facing an existential crisis as a nation, and besides Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and a few others, many are doing very little. Story 82. I refuse to buy anything related to multi-level marketing. Please stay out of my inbox. Do not address me as Han. I am not interested in any business opportunity. The answer is no. Story 83. Lending money to friends and family can be tricky. Either provide them with the money or choose not to. However, avoid making them feel indebted to you. It's not worth it. Story 84. HP requires a monthly subscription for printer ink, and if you cancel that subscription, you cannot print even if there is ink in the cartridge. The customer service is frankly abysmal, and the laptops have increasingly high failure rates, especially with the USB ports. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.